I know it's difficult because it's after lunchtime, so trying to keep you awake. Maybe I would like to share a joke. It's from my daughter. Do you know what's the heaviest noodle in Asia? 1-ton noodles. Okay, anyway, this afternoon my talk will be on the translating the government incentives into life science. And in fact, last November, our Prime Minister just launched what we call the Bioeconomy Initiative Malaysia. And in fact, this couple of weeks in Kuala Lumpur, we have what we call the Bioeconomic Lab. So we assemble the whole group, the stakeholders of the industry, and we're having a discussion actually how to move our bioeconomy forward. So today I would like to share with you how we're going to drive that and what exactly our role in biotech cooperation. So we believe bioscience, bioeconomy will play a central role in Malaysia in creating wealth, jobs and opportunity, and to shift Malaysian economy towards greater and more sustainable use of renewable resources, developing new technologies and processes, new markets and competitiveness, pushing policymakers and stakeholders to work closely together. So basically, my presentation this afternoon will talk about the government incentives on the life science industry, economic growth, and the role of biotech cooperation. And so we're looking at developing domestic capacities and capability, financing innovation in the bio-based economy, developing talents to enhance competitiveness, collaborations and partnership to coordinate action, and moving from science to business. So first, I would like to introduce you to Malaysian Biotech Corporation. We are quite unique. We run as a corporate body. We answer ourselves to the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We hold certain incentives and also bill of guarantees from the Malaysian government. So that means we are empowered to provide incentives to companies who are investing into Malaysia, or companies or domestic companies wanting to build up the bioscience business. And so we work closely to bring foreign direct investment. We also nurturing our local domestic direct investment. We are a one-stop center. So let's say companies would like to hire expatriate on board, so we work all the necessary paperwork for immigration. We provide incentives, for example, 10 years tax break to companies who wants to operate in Malaysia. Recently, we were responsible to bring in CJ from Korea and Arkema together for biomethionine plant in Kerteh. That is the first production of methionine through fermentation in the world. So it's a 2 billion ringgit investment into Kerteh. So I think that's quite significant for us to bring in industrial biotech into Malaysia. As you know, we also have investment from Biocon and in BioXcel. It's also our subsidiary operating a biotech park. We have Glycos Bio from United States and Metabolic Explorer from France. And we are in talk with several more companies to be basically having their operation in BioXcel in Iskandar, Malaysia. And also we have corridors development. So we have the Northern Corridor. We have Agilent in Penang. Now Agilent is investing into biotech equipments in the Penang manufacturing plant. We have St. Jude Medical and Bibron also operating in Penang, having an R&D center. So we also work as an advocacy towards biotech. Every year we run Bio Malaysia. So this year in November we'll also run another Bio Malaysia 2012. So we are responsible for bringing more business-to-business discussion and also promoting Malaysian companies and also collaboration and partnership with companies from overseas. So in essence, what we do is actually intensifying investments in strategic high-impact focus areas, moving companies up the value chain via targeted collaborative programs. Recently, we also are responsible bringing partnership between our local pharma company and overseas pharma company, and we hope in the next couple of months we will be able to announce a new a strategic collaboration between a Malaysian pharma and a pharma company from overseas. Enhancing the biotechnology ecosystem, as I mentioned, we are also having a subsidiary, BioExcel, operating a biotech park in Iskandar. We are also working closely with corridors, including the Sabah corridor, the Sarawak corridor in the area of agriculture. So Novartis is working together with Sarawak Biodiversity in scouting new compounds from the forest. We are also providing, for example, CJ and Akimar in Kerteh, which is what we call the East Coast Corridor. We provide advisory and support services to companies who want to come to Malaysia, promoting the biotech industry. So to date, we have about 213 our local companies in biotechnology and 75 in the area of healthcare. So to us is something that we should plan, and we also would like to help, and we have fund. We provide startup fund and commercialization fund to companies, and this year we hope we could introduce another venture capital fund, we hope by the second quarter this year. We also work together with Barrel in the Malaysian Life Science Fund. So we have in development a second fund. Barrel has completely invested $200 million last year. And so we are working on the second fund of Barrel. So that fund is actually not limited to only Malaysian companies, but we're investing in companies that we hope one day will have operation in Malaysia. And we expand the market access for local biotech companies, so we have trade mission overseas, so that's part of and parcel of our function. And part of our function is also to create a conducive environment, so we work very closely with different ministries, for example, Ministry of Health, and making sure that we have all these fundamentals correct, the GLP, GCP, GMP. We align the funding mechanism. We work very closely with MLSF, for example, in providing funding to companies. We also have our own fund, the startup fund. And so we brand our local companies Bionexus companies. So they have these Bionexus companies will have a 10-year tax break incentive by the time they're starting to make profit. So I think that is also something that is quite interesting for us to work on and develop in the next probably up to 2020. We also work with different ministries on the policies. We work with university and also institutes on the shared infrastructure and services. We provide some grant to institutes and universities to be able to provide their labs to companies, what we call the Bionexus Partners program. We also work closely in development of scientists, engineers, and specialists. And one of the important area of focus today in industrial biotech will be biofuel, because by 2015, all airlines going into Europe will have to have 5% biofuel in their tank. And so we are working very closely with various parties in Malaysia to have a program that we would be able to provide biofuel by 2015. And I think tomorrow our Prime Minister will officiate this biomass initiative, use of our oil palm waste to basically become a feedstock for the bio-based chemicals and also biofuels. So I think that's also an important area of focus for us. So basically in 2005, we launched what we call the National Biotech Policy. Phase 1, we say in 2005 to 2010, we were looking at capacity building. So we work closely with various ministries and institutions to develop our own local capability. And to date, we have 3 new institutes: the Institute of Pharmaceutical, which is in Penang. We have the Genomic Institute in Dengkil, and we have the Agro Biotech Institute in Serdang. So 3 new institutes by the government with full infrastructure. And so that becomes our main fundamental to create the capacity for the industry. And so we are in the phase 2, basically science to business. So we're looking at transforming many of those works into commercial. And so that's going to be our main focus up to 2015. And we are working very hard to move into the next phase 3, which is 16 to 20 on building up the global business. As you know, Malaysia is quite new in the biotech industry, but we know that we have resources and capabilities. In our positioning, we are quite difficult positioning, I would say. I have to address that, because to say that we are very cheap in terms of labor, we are not. In terms of quality, we are still slightly behind Singapore, but we are, with this program that we have, I think we hope that we will push our positioning better in the future. So we basically have some targets in terms of investment by private sector and government. So last year we achieved about close to 5 billion. And so the next 5 years we are targeting for 9 billion, and we achieved 2 billion last year with the investment from CJ and Akima. So that's, I think that's very, very important for us. And developing the biotech program, we also making sure that we have enough people to run the business. And so to date, we have about 40 different universities offering biotech program. And we also have our own, what we call the BEST program, which is a program after the student graduates. We put them in various positioning in companies, so we also have that program to ensure that we have enough people to run the show. And total revenue about 80 billion, that will be our target for 2015, with contribution to GDP about 4% at the end of 2011 to 2015. So building a bioeconomy. So we say that I think this is quite important for us, looking at various aspects, especially in terms of the future. We know that the fossil fuel will one day will not have any more fossil fuel. Malaysia is also a very important producer of oil. We have our oil basically offshore in Sabah, Sarawak, and also in Terengganu in the East Coast. But we are blessed with the oil palm trees. I think with the plantation that we have, we discovered that the anti-fruit bunch is actually quite abundant, and we say that that could be mobilized into the next generation energy source for the country. And so we say that we need to expand our definition of biotechnology, not only basically strictly on microbials, enzymes, cell culture, but we're looking at a new green technology to transform our agriculture waste into valuable products. So that will be also our main focus. And also looking at some unmet medical in terms of treatment, especially like thalassemia and some other diseases like dengue, for example. And so we're going to join many more countries in the world looking at bioeconomy. So we say that Europe has started their bioeconomy last February. I think they have launched their own bioeconomy. President Obama last year announcing the United States initiative in bioeconomy, and in fact they were saying that 50% of the fuel for the naval fleet in Asia Pacific will be on biofuel. So I think that's where we say that we hold some promises in terms of utilization of our waste into some valuable products for the future. And Canada just announced their bioeconomy worth about 86.5 billion. So Malaysia, I think, will be among a few countries in Asia that will start this initiative. And in fact, as I mentioned, we have a 6-week lapse, and the Malaysian government is having a different type of strategy in terms of transforming our economy. We have what we call these national key economic areas, and today we have about 12 national key economic areas with various targets. And in fact, bioeconomy will be number 14 after digital economy. So we are working on putting up our own target, and we have our own program, and we are focusing more towards the private and also public partnership. So government will put in 10 to 15% of the cost, and the rest of the cost will come from the private sector, but the government will put some guarantee in terms of offtake incentives to the private sector to ensure that the program will be successful. And today, every one of our ministers will be responsible for the delivery of these NKEAs. So in fact, I think last month, I was in the cabinet away day, and every ministries will have to put up their result in the scorecard and the targets and so on and so forth. So I think quite interesting for us to experiment this new economic strategy for Malaysia to move forward. And so we are among the few who's basically thinking about bio-based economy, and I think Malaysia with abundance of natural resources, I think we are in a good positioning. And in fact, one of our local companies is now doing material production from the banana trunk. So they come up with a product is biodegradable. In fact, we are also thinking of a program to replace plastic bags with bags from banana trunks, so that when we throw in the drain and into the waterways, the fish can be basically eating the banana material rather than the plastic bags. So I think that's also a biggest concern for us on environmental conditions. So we would like to improve our environment. At the same time, will be more environmental friendly. And so I think with world population, increase in world population, we say about what the prediction says 9 billion people in 2050. And with the climate change, today we have everyday rain in Kuala Lumpur instead of any, previously we had some drought, but there's no more drought in Kuala Lumpur, so there's the issue on climate change. And also pressure on the global production systems, and also that we know that one day we're not going to have any more fuel from the fossil fuels. So I think with that, we are focusing on increasing our bio-based economy as a very important component for us. So what we need is actually a policy change to incentivize the investment and to translate science to business. So we are looking at breakthrough in terms of treatments, enhanced agriculture products, vaccines, and also biofuels. So we're looking at how can we move the gross national income with activities in bioeconomy, and also to increase the knowledge workers in the country, into the human capital, and to basically work more on innovative products for the future. And so I think it is very important for us to establish this target, and so the government has put a lot of program and incentives, and we hope that that will increase our gross national income, especially Malaysia in the middle income trap, so we need to push ahead to improve our income to a high level income. So some of the focus area will be on bioextracts, biofeed, industrial biotechnology in terms of bioplastics, and also biochemicals or chemical based on bioresources, genomics, biofertilizers, biocontrol. We are also working on biosimilars and also stem cells. So these are some of the focus areas that we are putting for Bioeconomy Initiative Malaysia, and we hope we will be able to announce this by middle of this year on the official acknowledgement from the government as the National Key Economic Area number 14. And in terms of building our domestic capacities, we have what we call the BioNexus program. So every company who are eligible for incentives, we call them BioNexus companies. And so we have, let's say, 10-year tax break and some bill of guarantees, some element of funding from the government. We provide, let's say, support from our own environment that we provide help in terms of consulting and also offtake program by the government. For example, from the Ministry of Health standpoint, if let's say the company is producing material in-house, so we will provide some offtake program by the Ministry of Health. And today we have about 213 BioNexus companies, and it represents roughly on industrial, agriculture, and healthcare. And in total, the investment approved is more than 2.1 billion ringgit today. And so these are some of the stage of development of our BioNexus company, and majority is still in a small medium enterprise. So I think we need to push it further, and as I said that we need to have a good program to grow them up And in fact, our next stage will be pushing more on the global players for biotech and bioeconomy industry. So we have few already in, let's say, London Stock Exchange and various stock exchange. PureCircle, for example, is a company that produces stevia, and so it's artificial sugar. So they are in the business. They are in the London Stock Exchange. We have Hollister, Biotech, Stem Life in stem cells, MGRC in genomics, and Sanzen. So we have several companies already getting into the world market. So we hope more would join these companies in the future. And so I think another area of focus for Biotech Corporation is on capital. So we are working on various platforms. We hope by the second quarter we will announce another venture capital fund together with a few venture capital players. And so we hope that we can provide enough funding to fuel the industry. And so to date, about 55 companies have received the funding, about 116.89 million that we have dishing out to companies, basically the Bionexus companies. And so this year we will launch our new biotechnology commercialization fund. So that will be starting this year, so we will have some fund that we can provide to companies as a loan. And so I think it's no secret that this industry needs capital, and we hope that we would be able to provide this mechanism to make sure that we will be successful. So part of the bioeconomy initiative will be looking at the funding mechanism. And as I mentioned, talent is important, and so we are pushing hard on talent. So as I mentioned, about 40 universities today is offering biotech program. And with the BioExcel and the programs that we have in investment, so we say that we have to meet between the expectation from the industry on the demand of manpower. And I think majority of our manpower still is in Singapore. And so we have what we call the BEST program, the Biotechnology Entrepreneurship Special Training Program. So we provide this training for people. And in fact, now we are working with a few companies overseas, so we hope that we can provide also some training overseas. These are some of the entrepreneurship program that we had, about 274 new entrepreneurs, 61 high impact program. We work closely with QB3 from University of California, San Francisco, providing some training program for our local graduates, and also creating new companies together with QB3. So we know that the landscape is going to be flat, interconnected and borderless, so I think competition is definitely be something that we'll be looking at. And intellectual property is definitely be an important component, and so we would try to look into how can we securitize IPR, so that's going to be our next thing in our framework. So as you can see here, there's a growth in terms of number of patents, so I think Malaysia needs to improve that positioning. So there's also our main focus with growth of patent file about 15% and 38% in patent granted. So this is purely on life sciences and biosciences. And so we collaborate with many organizations in the world. We work closely with CRIP for bioprocess training. We become a member of the cluster of industrial biotech. I think that's also a very important component in our industrial biotechnology area. We work with QB3 in terms of incubators, new companies, and now we are also going to work together in developing a satellite of the QB3 in Malaysia. So as a conclusion, I think Malaysia is going to be a very important destination for global biotech opportunities, and we hope with the development in BioExcel, which is about 10 minutes away from the Tuas checkpoint, will be something that we can work together with companies also from Singapore. And I think the government is putting a lot of support and catalyst for the industry to grow, and Malaysian Biotech Corporation basically is given the mandate to push this industry forward. And so I think the solution to our challenge will require bold, creative leaps and innovative ideas. And I think with that, I would like to end my presentation, and before that, I think we hope to see you in Bio Malaysia 2012, which is in November 5th to 7th this year. Thank you very much.